country is for the very first time implementing the closed season at the same time with its neighboring country, Cote d'Ivoire, to help build the country's depleting fish stocks. 3 other countries, Togo, Benin and Liberia, are expected to join Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire to implement the next closed season. That's according to the Fisheries and Aquaculture Minister, who has been addressing the press today.
The scientific working groups have recommended that the closed season should be implemented between the months of July and September, which coincides with the spawning period of the fish stocks. This ensures that the fish spawns at least once in its lifetime before caught by the fishers. Thus, in the past 2 years, the closed season has been implemented between July and August. Friends of the media, the closed fishing season has always been implemented through strong stakeholders' engagement with leaders of fisheries associations, fishers, academia, and CSOs. This year, we met the leadership of all the fisheries associations, academia, and CSOs on the 13th of April 2023 at the Closac Hall to discuss the outcome of the 2022 closed season. After thorough and frank discussions of the reports and how to better implement future closed seasons, the 2023 closed season was announced as follows. Canoe and inshore fishers will observe the closed season from the 1st of July to 31st of July 2023. Industrial trawlers will also observe the closed season from 1st July to 31st of August 2023. Let me also put on record that the tuna fleet also observe their closed season 3 months in every year. To mitigate the impact of the closed fishing season on fishers and processors, the ministry during the 2022 closed season distributed 20,000 bags of rice and 8,333 cartons of oil to support fishers and the fish processors during the closure. As a way of reducing pressure on the fisheries resources, the ministry and its partners, including the Ghana Fisheries Recovery Activity, has launched the Alternative Livelihood Training Supports for fishers, starting with 550 fishers in masonry, carpentry, dressmaking, hairdressing, electronics, and auto engineering, etc. in selected communities along the coast. This training will be scaled up to over 8,000 fishers, and after the training, trainers will be supported to set up to ensure that they can earn incomes from their trade. Furthermore, it was agreed again at our 13th April 2023 meeting that gains from implementing the closed season will be eroded if we all do not collectively combat IUU fishing activities. The ministry will therefore continue to empower the fisheries enforcement units to curb any illegal activities. Some of the new measures that the ministry has put in place to combat illegal fishing are as follows.
Indications from the Fisheries Ministry, but how will that impact the sector? Let's bring in some of our guests who are helping us with the conversation today. Emmanuel Kwame Dovlo is Director of Fisheries Research at the Fisheries Commission, joining us via Zoom. Thank you for your time here on the Pulse. And I'm just first of all going to pick up on the issue about alternative livelihood for persons who have set out to be fishermen. I mean, it's as though we're asking them not to fish at all. Is that the case?
No, not really. Not really. But we are looking at the fishers being able within the close season to do some work. Yeah, that can earn them some income for that period of time. Yeah.
Now we're for the very first time doing this with our neighboring countries. What's the scientific benefit of having, for instance, the West African coast, i.e. Togo, Benin, of course having the likes of Cote d'Ivoire join this joint close season? Is it the case that it will have a significant impact, or perhaps there's some more of a political angle to what's happening now?
Yeah, actually, when we take the small pelagics, yeah, we call them migratory or straddling stock. So we find them in these four countries. We talk about Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana here, Togo, and to some extent Benin. So if we can close the season with our neighboring countries, then we are looking at protecting the entire fish stock. Yeah, so basically that is what we are doing. And if you look at the stock, Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire hold over 90%. Yeah, so Cote d'Ivoire coming on board is a very significant achievement for Cote d'Ivoire to get on board with this close season.
How are you involving?
And
yes,
secondly,
yes, if you may.
Yeah, yeah. Secondly, when close season is implemented in Ghana, we realize that the canoes, they move to the neighboring countries to fish. So now that Cote d'Ivoire is joining, then they won't be able to go and fish there. And we are looking at protecting the govt fish for the entire stock. And that will increase the yield of the stock. Thank you.
I was just about pointing to the fisher folk and how you're involving them in all of this process, because they are a critical stakeholder in ensuring that the reasons for which you set out this close season will be achieved. Have you engaged them already? Have you taken note of some of the concerns they have?
Yeah, we do engage the fishers all the time. Yeah, at the moment, the ministry and the commission, we are implementing fisheries co-management policy. And within the co-management, there are structures where all stakeholders in the fishing industry are involved. We have one we call Science and Technical Committee. And in that group, we have the academia, the University of Cape Coast is represented, University of Ghana is represented, we have the National Fisheries Association of Ghana, the NAFAC, we have the inshore, we have the artisanal, we have the trawlers, we have the tuna. They are all part of that committee who sit down and look at the scientific data and we analyze it together for them to bring in their traditional knowledge, which is very, very important. And then we have the Fisheries Management Operational Committee that basically looks at how the fisheries management plan can be implemented. Over there too, we have all the stakeholders involved, particularly the fishers, even including the fish processors, because they all hold very important information. And then we are now looking at forming what is called Small Pelagic Fisheries Co-Management Committee, which will be at the various landing sites. That will also involve the fishers. So in effect, we've also conducted stakeholder engagement. We met at closer call in Accra here on the 13th of April, where the results of the 22 close season was presented to them. They were happy and they agreed to the close season. Yeah, so basically there are so many avenues and ways that we've always engaged them. And the position of the ministry and the commission is co-management. We've moved away from the days where we do top-down approach. Now we take the stakeholders, particularly fishermen, their views and their ideas, everything into what we are doing.
Okay, that's good to know, but then you're still being criticized by some stakeholders, in fact, including some political figures as well, accusing you of being fixated on the small-scale fisher folk. Pet trawling appears to be the biggest challenge of the industry, and you're criticized that you're not able to take these institutions, these vessels, strictly to what the law demands. Why not focus on that sector and leave out the close season for the small-scale fisher folk?
Yeah, from our records and for your information, at the moment, there is no pair trawling ongoing. But I believe you are talking about the industrial trawlers. Yeah, and currently, since last year, what we've done is to bring what is called Ministerial Directive on Trawl Gear, where we have tried to streamline and regulate the size of the net that they are using to fish. And as at last November, we only give license to those vessels that have adjusted their net or modified their net so that they can fish responsibly. So at the moment, only few of them are operational. And we expect that as the rest are able to meet the requirements concerning modification of their trawl net, we will grant those ones to
Yeah,
license.
but
So
you agree it's not just about the net. There are concerns about some more practices still in the sector. For instance, light fishing, I should say. And some of these practices that still go on. My concern is about being hard on these relatively larger vessels. Because they are foreigners, it appears we're not able to take them on.
Yeah, talk about light fishing. The Commission has a division called Monitoring, Control and Surveillance Unit, which monitors and enforces the regulation. Aside that, we have what is called Fisheries Enforcement Unit, made up of the same Monitoring, Control and Surveillance Division, together with the Ghana Navy, together with the Marine Police, together with the Attorney General's Department. And they are always on the ground. Whenever we pick intelligence, we make sure that the Navy, the police, together with our protection officers, the MCS, they move to that particular place and they make sure that the culprits are done with. So we have a firm hold on this thing, on the illegalities that are going on.
Okay, anyway, let's talk about the science and what this science is and data is telling you about the effects of the closed season. This is not obviously the first time you're running this. You've done this in the past and I'm running a number of years. What do you have to say about the impact, tangible ones, that the fisher folk are able to easily point out to say, well, this is a good approach?
Yeah. When we look at the closed season, yes, we've done some scientific assessment of the work, and we presented this. Even today, we did it at the Ministry of Information. If we look at the information, basically, they are in two parts. We have the socioeconomic aspect, and we have the pure scientific aspect, that's the biological studies. So when you look at the socioeconomic aspect, basically, we look at the well-being of the fishing community, that's the households. And we've realized that after closed season, the community seems to be better off with respect to their food income, as well as issues, like balanced diet. Yes. So the only aspect now is trying to increase the alternative livelihood approach and making sure that more of them are able to engage in this line.
How about the catch afterwards?
Yeah, the catch afterwards are usually high. And we presented this morning, yes.
I see. Human rights has also come up on top of some of the concerns within the sector. The issue about, first of all, involving minors when it comes to fishing. Are you paying attention to some of these issues as well?
Yes. Our Monitoring, Controllers and Surveillance Division, yes, they handle all these issues. All issues that has to do with illegality on vessels, all these issues are handled.
We're looking forward to the timelines that you'd be putting out for this year's season. What's the timeline looking like? And are you varying that for the various categories of vessels that you're dealing with?
Yeah. The timelines are for the artisanal and inshore, that is the canoes and the small boats, the wooden boats. They are going to observe the closed season from the 1st of July to 31st of July. And then the trawlers, the industrial trawlers, they are going to observe it from the 1st of July to 31st of August.
Let's take that date again. So this is supposed to be for
2023. So
Okay.
for 2023, we are looking at the artisanal and the inshore fleet, observing their close season from the 1st of July to 31st of July. And for the industrial trawlers to observe their close season from the 1st of July to the 31st of August.
So
the tuna
is that
have
to suggest
observed their close season?
Right. So is that to suggest that after the 31st of July, you would allow if I could refer to them as a small-scale fisher folk to go on and carry out their activities while you still maintain the ban on the bigger vessels?
Yes. After 31st July, the smaller vessels, the canoes, they will start operating. Their close season is just 1 month. Yes.
Anyway,
the reason why we extended for the industrial trawler is that basically we are looking at 3 months period from July, August, and September. This is the period that the fish breeds. Yeah, and this is the beginning. So we started with 1 month for the artisanal. And for the trawlers, the industrial trawlers, they have been observing 2 months since 2016. So basically, this is the position of the ministry and the commission now concerning the closure.
If there's a message for the fisherfolk, those who still cannot see the benefit of why you're carrying out this closed season, what message will that be?
Okay, then let me clearly move into the second part of the explanation on the benefits of the closed season. So we did biological survey where we bought fish from 4 stations: Keta, Tema, Elmina, and Sekendi. And we pick data from it. We measure the length of the fish, we measure the weight of the fish, we take the weight of the gonads. When I talk about gonads, I'm talking about the weight of the eggs and the sperm. And when we did analysis, we realized that before the closed season, what we saw was that there's a term we call gonadosomatic index. It's a term that refers to the readiness of the fish to spawn. So we realized that before the closed season, if you take April, May, June, those values are high. And then from August, September, October, going, you realize that values go high, meaning that these are the period, including July, that we need to protect them so that they can at least give forth to at least an offspring before fishermen can capture them. Yeah, basically, when we talk about closed season, the point here is that the fish should be able to spawn before it's captured so that we will leave, it needs to leave a generation behind. Let me put it that way. So we have engaged them and we've shown them all these results and they are very happy. And there are instances that we've met some of the fishermen who have praised what we have done. Formerly, we used to have very good sizes of sardinella in the period December, January, which is a minor upwelling. For some time now, we were not seeing it until we started implementing the closed season. And the fishermen can attest to it, the sizes of round sardinella that they are capturing during this minor upwelling season, that is usually December ending and then January. So the fishermen are seeing these benefits. And in the socioeconomic survey that we did, we realized that majority of them support the policy and they think that it will help improve the fisheries.
Okay, we wish you all the best. We'll wait to see what the outcome will be. Thank you. For spending some time with us this afternoon as well. The Association of Bulk Fisher Importers, they are threatening to hit the streets should government fail to address their concerns, which they say is gradually killing their businesses. According to the fish importers, there's about some 75% issues in terms of importers that have folded up due to huge losses incurred since the beginning of this year. Joining Systema correspondent Elvis Washington has the rest of the story.
The bulk fish importers Association, which was formed with a membership of about 40 companies from inception, is now left with only 15 companies operating within the industry, with 25 companies folding up. Reason being the high cost of imports levy and high duty at the port, coupled with other unfriendly charges that has crippled the fish industry. They complained to Joy News that in recent times, fish importers in the country have had to compete unfairly with unscrupulous persons who have flooded the market with the influx of smuggled frozen fish and meat from neighboring countries like Burkina Faso, La Côte d'Ivoire, and Togo, among others. The spokesperson for the association, Alfred Fugairi Kulderu, noted that the situation, if not checked, will soon render all bulk fish importers jobless, as they would have no choice than to shut down their cold stores and lay off workers.
So because of the low charges of in Ivory Coast, which is about 21%, most of now the people dump the fish there and they come through the borders. Yes, because now most people now will send their vessels to Côte d'Ivoire. Then from Côte d'Ivoire, people will now bring them into the country, not even only in the country, not even only in Tema, which is affecting us, but now spread across the country. So when we are pushed to the corner, we have different steps we need to take if it comes to that area. And when the right time comes, we'll definitely let that be known, which include demonstration.
Some fishmongers and operators of small cold stores at the Tema Fishing Harbour also added their voices to that of the bulk importers and agreed on staging a demonstration to press home their demands.
Things are very costly. We can't buy because even in the harbor, in the main harbor, the duties on the goods that are being imported, they are too much that we cannot even buy the goods. Costs are going down. Everything is costing. Let's take a salmon of 10 kilos that we used to sell 1 million, 110 cedis and 120 cedis before. It's now 320 cedis. And if the customers come, they cannot buy because the thing is too costly. So we are pleading with the government to reduce it. If not, we will go hungry. And if we go hungry, there will be more chrono in the country. So you have to tell the government to do something about it. Our big men who are in the main harbor, they will put all their everything on the thing. The duty are too much that the people cannot even pay for the duties. So for that, they have to import from Benin, Côte d'Ivoire, Togo before we can be able to sell fish here.
Pacho say hane dia no boy e din ma yenti e na bi ko Côte d'Ivoire fa na mo ba na se Ghana de ye tumi to Ghana de no a obi tumi ko Côte d'Ivoire ko fa na mo ba first Ghana na ma na ye tom na se Ghana de na ka say yentumi nto enti se wore wo tumi na Côte d'Ivoire de na bo wo fo mu a won no ba ko fa ba no abeton
Côte d'Ivoire ni nam na aye fo se Ghana de na because ho no mu no Ghana for no tumi free hand ko Côte d'Ivoire ko fa na ma de ba abeton wa ha se so, and I said, oh, no, Banyan Falasi Hanumu, but your own duty and one America crowd. And I was Togo Hanum Kurano, Mino or Mamuka or Moko Côte d'Ivoire Fanam, and no Mamuko Togo Kofan because I'm almost a free duty in the Hormuz, Amabas of Amadibawa. So, Yan Falasi Ghana for the mobile and the boy Costro. Costa Bebre, Mikama Hanum Kurano, Costa by 5 Nina Yajuma. So, Yakura, the Sena Korea, Judgment Korea, so be some boss to Kuraba country, Judgment.
Samson Asaki Awingobit is the Executive Secretary for Importers and Exporters Association, and he also has this to say.
Ivory Coast has also built one of the biggest ports. And so we can no longer say, so you have a competitor. And that competitor cost of doing business is far, far lower than even what we do business here. If I were to be government, I'll rethink again.
Meanwhile, the Association of Bulk Fish Importers say several letters written to government corridors have yielded an insignificant response.
Petition our stakeholders, Minister of Fisheries, we have petitioned the Minister of Finance, the President, the Chief of Staff. As at now, we've not. If you go to the harbors, the imports have really come down.
For Joy News, my name is Elvis Washington, reporting from Tema.
Well, so that's the concern of the bulk fish importers, but the Fisheries Alliance is calling for a reform that will, of course, inure to the benefit of Ghanaians as Ghana prepares to run that close season. Joining us now as convener of the Ghana Fisheries Alliance platform, Kojoche Yamwa. Thank you, sir, for spending some time with us.
Thank you.
It's not an entirely pleasant situation to find a country reliant on importation of fish, for instance. We need to be sufficient, but you're saying there's also a benefit when it comes to importation.
Yes, the most important thing is that fish is food, and the fish being available is also food security. You know, when you buy your kenke and then your fish is very expensive,
right,
then it affects everybody. And also fish is one of the cheapest source of protein, so we need to make it available. Most importantly, Ghana has been importing fish for a long time. Now we import more than what we produce locally. The important thing is that in Ivory Coast, they've been able to manage their fishery sustainably. So now they have more fish landed. That means there's more supply of fish than the demand, so the fish price goes down. Right. In Ghana, we are not getting much fish, so the prices of fish have gone up. That is why when people go to Ivory Coast, they can bring in fish even at a cheaper price. So it is very important to understand this economy of fish. But towards close season, it is good for government to look at ensuring that there is adequate fish for the consumer. So that is why these challenges and bottlenecks relative to bringing in fish from other neighboring countries must be looked at, especially during the period of close season, so that the average consumer can have the fish available. Then we must be looking at the medium to long-term effort, including the close season and other fisheries management measures to bring in more of the fish. That is important, especially for what we are able to land locally. But what you are able to land locally depends on how much fish is there in the sea in terms of your available waters. So I also think that is a welcome news that our neighboring countries in Ivory Coast are supporting us do close season at the same period. We are hopeful that in Togo, Benin, and others will also support, because in previous close season, we have had few fishermen moving out of Ghana and then fishing from those countries. That is not so good, because their fellow counterparts or fishers in Ghana will be staying at home. So it's important that we understand this mechanism. The other point is that, yes, we support the close season is very good. We also encourage government to be looking at fish harvest in terms of the juvenile landings in the artisanal and the inshore sectors. That includes the fact that we must ensure that our fishing mesh size, the nets, are regulated effectively, so that the juvenile fishes, include the baby fishes, are not harvested immediately after the close season, so that those that are recruited into the system are able to also grow, and then we can also let them, spawn and then reproduce. So addressing the issue of gear size is very important, the mesh size of the fishing gears.
I was asking the question about why we're not staying on bigger vessels, because the concern from industry players is that they are mostly at fault, because we don't have an effective mechanism of checking them.
There are mechanisms of checking them, but in most countries there are challenges. The sea is wide and open, and you need a lot of eyes and ears to be able to monitor. And that is why we commend the minister for the bold effort in the ministry for going. It's a commitment which is very important for the electronic monitoring system, where we can have videographic, photographic evidence, so that you can have more eyes on the sea and to look at the operation of the trawl sector. What is also most important is that the enforcement agency, that's the Fisheries Enforcement Unit, the Marine Police and others, they are very committed. What we need to do is to resource them and support them to be able to do their work. That element is very important, so that the deterrence element, which include the capacity to see who is doing wrong, the capacity to arrest, and then prosecute them rightfully within the ambit of the law, would ensure that there's deterrence. That means that it will put people in check, and then they'll do the right thing. That element needs to be supported. And then the issue of negative interferences from political, from others, would also come down, so that when vessels are arrested, Nobody goes in to try to negotiate and to try to interfere unduly. These are important elements to ensure that enforcement of the laws is very important. I really like what the minister said. She gave exact paint the picture in terms of the illegal fishing, that is a challenge, in terms of the too many fishing gears, which is a challenge, in terms of other issues, environmental issues, climate change and others. We are on course, but the most important thing is that we need to also add the additional measures and then the enforcement measure that is very important to ensure that the close season gives us the benefits that we need.
Aside the concerns about some malpractices within the industry, pollution also appears to be a challenge for those who are fisher folk. They equally have that concern. So it's as though we're just focusing on, for instance, a close season, having a bigger catch, and not dealing with the peripheral issues.
Yes, the environmental factors is important, the climate change, and then plastic pollution. Issues of plastic pollution goes beyond the Ministry of Fisheries. It is a multi-sectorial approach that is needed. The local government and the district assemblies address issues of sanitation, but we have noticed that the volumes of plastic entering the ocean is a major challenge to fisheries because it affects the fish population, and even fisher folks are affected because most of them, they launch their nets and then the plastic population is more than the fish. And it even goes beyond government to all of us. How we dispose of our drinking bottles, how we dispose of the plastics that we use when we go to the supermarket and then we buy things. So proper waste disposal and behavioral change by the citizenry will do us a lot of good. Even though it's a global challenge, but for developing countries like Ghana, when you see the volumes of plastics into the ocean, but even before they enter the ocean, they cause the floods, they destroy properties and humans. And it is because the drains are choked with these plastics. But they eventually wash off to the ocean, and then they also form interactive with the marine biodiversity and others, and also limiting fish production and other environmental functions and services that the ocean needs to provide for us. And these are issues that we need to look at and then do more sensitization, education, and enforcement.
But in terms of enforcement, you have, for instance, the marine police still having their challenges as well. If you have that happening, enforcement may be a bigger challenge.
What is most important is that once the institutions are in place and they have the capacity, the competence to do it, that is the first step. The second step is the resources. And that is why we call for political commitment. Political commitment is in two. One, if you are committed, you put in resource. The second is that if you are committed, you also prioritize and you promote. So we need a political commitment to ensure that...
Yeah, but where do we get the funding from?
The funding is very
that's
important.
been a challenge for many governments across
the funding is very important. One of the few things is that when you do fisheries enforcement effectively, in the beginning, it pays for itself. Because when fishing trawlers are fined for engaging in certain kinds of illegalities, the minimum fine is $1 million.
Really?
And the fisheries enforcement unit, when they even find one vessel and have that $1 million going to them, they are okay for the entire year. So if we would stick to the laws and work on them and ensure that the prosecution and others are as per the law, we'll have issues. But as we speak now, no vessel has been able to be fined and prosecuted, go to the system and pay us that $1 million.
And maybe that's because of this thorny issue that those we send to monitor are not even treated well. They're not paid well. So there could be compromise, perhaps.
Yes, there could be compromise in terms of observers and others. That is why we have advocated for removing the human element and bringing electronic monitoring and others. But the reports that they also give, acting on it and ensuring that there is successful prosecution has also been a challenge. And that is why we have not been able to get any vessel to pay us this $1 million and others. And in other countries, because the fines are working, the courts are working, the monies come in, and then the enforcement agencies are able to use them. So fisheries enforcement, when you work on it, medium to short term, you will always have the paying back.
Yeah, but
after some
we've
time,
not been doing that as expected.
Yes, we have not been doing that, and it's very important that the prosecutorial actors are also brought to the fore in terms of the judiciary, in terms of those who sit on adjudication of fisheries cases. That is a very important element. Without that, we may not have the commensurate compliance, because when people are caught and they do not go through the process and they can easily pay, they come back to do the illegal
And going forward, your alliance deals much more within the space, so you know the fisher folk, you know those who deal in the vessels. How are you collaborating with them? The close season is upon us.
Yes,
will they comply, first of all? Is that what you're picking up from
Yes, close season will have close to 100% compliance. Our point is that the other measures that need to be put in place so that the close season gives us the maximum benefit to ensure that after the close season, illegal, unreported, unregulated fishing is stamped down, prosecutorial process is strong, that anybody engaged in illegalities is duly dealt with, and then we have the necessary deterrence that we need. That is very important. Then other measures can also put in. These are very important measures to support us, revamp our fisheries sector, to maintain the multitude of fishers that are engaged in fishing. And most fishers have large number of dependents, children, wives, and others. So we're looking at large population of Ghanaians who benefit from our fisheries sector, and we need to maintain them as such.
Okay, Kojo, thanks for joining us. I'm looking forward to the $1 million.
Thank you very much.
We'll get to that, definitely. You're watching The Pulse. We'll be back. When we return, we have a lot more stories for you. Please stay.